Hi there, this is Ron Rogers, and this video is titled Air Force Pilot Training Wives and Girlfriends. Now, I look at this now when I blocked and it sounds like Air Force pilots training their wives and girlfriends, and of course, that's about as successful as teaching your cat, trying to teach your cat to roll over. It's going to annoy both of you, and in both cases, you're likely to end up getting scratched in the whole process. Now, this video actually is the suggestion of one of my viewers, and I've had a lot of viewers suggest videos, and I've got a big long list over here, and I'm going through it as best I can. I've got like 640 videos, and I thought I'd be out of ideas by now, but I've got just a bunch of ideas still to go and stuff to talk about, and people are suggesting cool things that are just kind of neat. But okay, this was a long time ago, over 50 years ago. Totally different era. Let me kind of state that. We decided, I was one of the co-editors, George and I, we had two sections in our pilot training class. We started out with 60, we ended up with 53. Not much of an attrition rate at all. Around 53 we ended up with. We actually, after this book was published, there's a few people who we lost, but I digress there. But anyway, George and I decided we would use a theme styled after the Playboy magazine, and we were going to call it Flyboy. And here's the little guy right here. It's a little Flyboy book, and it's actually, I thought it actually came out pretty good compared to a lot of the yearbooks. It was pretty clever, and I'm going to show you, and I'll also attach as a PDF file. You can look at some of the little things in here, but we styled it right after the Playboy magazine, and the artistry here, that was done by Gordy Davis. Gordy was a friend of mine. He unfortunately died a few years later in the crash of a T-39 over in Korea, but he was an amazing artist. And, you know, back in the day, before it's kind of gone out of publication, ended and stuff like that, thanks to the internet, I guess, Playboy was quite a magazine. You know, you went down to your local drugstore or wherever and you bought your copy. In fact, I have a friend who has every single published copy in his collection. But here were a couple of examples. Now, like I said, this was a long time ago. That's a very young Hugh Hefner, and those, of course, are very young bunnies. The bunnies back then, of course, were very young. I've got a reunion picture here. Everybody ages. But, I mean, it was a big deal back then. Hugh had his own bunny airplane. It had a rotating bed in it. And they built the Playboy Club up at Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. And there are some of the bunnies. I guess they were there helping with it, I guess. I'm not quite sure about that. It doesn't look like they're wearing the appropriate protective equipment, but there they are, okay? This opened in 1968, the year I graduated from high school. Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, it closed in 81. I know people who actually attended this when it was the Playboy Club, and they had a few good stories. I didn't get around to it ever. I was, you know, it wasn't my thing, I guess. I wasn't a member, but they had some good stories, and it was a very nice facility, very beautiful. And of course, a long time ago, a lot of things are in black and white. And, of course, it had a lot of famous people there. Smothers, you know, Dickie Smothers, the Smothers brothers. And, of course, there are some of the bunnies. And, yeah, we all get older here. I don't look as young as I did way back then. Some bunnies age better than others. And, of course, Hef is now dead. But one interesting thing about the resort was it had its own little airport. And back when I was in high school or just graduating, Private Pilot magazine came out with an article, and on the cover, it had a guy flying his Piper 140 in there. Now, this runway at the end of it, and I came in later, and some of the guys there, you know, the line boys showed me where the bunny shack was. These are where the bunnies stayed, and when you flew your airplane in, they would come out in their bunny costumes with a bottle of champagne for you. And it had a picture of the bunny on the wing of the Piper 140, handing the guy a bottle of champagne. Now, okay, she probably did that because of the story. Most likely, she was going to hit the guy with the bottle of champagne and tell him to get this little piece of crap out of here. You're not going to impress anybody coming in a Piper 140. They were looking for the big money back then. But the resort closed as a Playboy club. It closed in '81. It became Grand Geneva, and this is a nice little airport in there. I used to fly in there. I used to do real estate, and I'd fly my 310 up there and take clients. You could actually walk up the little road to the Grand Geneva Resort, and they had real nice food and stuff, and took them to a nice little dinner and stuff like that, or lunch, whatever. So, but now. I have a video where I actually fly over this airport, and over the years it's gone downhill considerably, and it's even gone more downhill because I've been told that a guy flew over there and it's gone. It's been dug up. They used it for drag racing one time, and I flew in there and did some touch and goes, and the thing was in such bad condition. I'm going, ooh. Is this airport still open? And it was at the time, so I didn't get in trouble. But later, it's closed. I mean, it is closed. And interesting, not all maps are quite updated with this, but it is definitely closed. In fact, it's so closed, it's gone. Okay. Now, back to the story of pilot training and wives. Like I said, this is a whole different era. The whole thing with the Playboy thing was different. And back then, okay, we had 53 pilots. There were 44 wives and girlfriends, and I'll show you the section in the book on that. 7 of these were girlfriends, so we had 37 wives. Now, we're early 20s. 37 of the 53 of us are married, and a number of us have kids, I being one of them. So, yeah, I mean, this was a different time because people married young then. It was very common. But okay, back to the book. Now, we put this together, and one thing I should mention about this whole deal is we were at Enid, Oklahoma. There is good old Enid by the sea, as we would call it. Now, this is a later picture because we had the T-37s and the T-38s. We didn't have the twin hair dryers or the thing with a propeller there. You know, you don't come in the Air Force to fly something with propellers. But this is Enid, Oklahoma, and we are in the middle of the Bible Belt. And it was funny. I come there. I found out every place I went, like to open a checking account or that, everybody wanted you to come to their church. There are 53 Baptist church at the time, back in the early 70s in Enid, Oklahoma, and everybody you met wanted you to come to their church. All right, so we styled it after the Playboy magazine at the time. You know, here is this woman interested in this guy. Well, she's not interested in him. She's, instead of being after his money, she's interested in no mix. And we had a Dear Flyboy section like Dear Playboy, and can you spot the tweet driver there? And I did a poem. Okay, you're probably familiar with High Flight. Okay, very wonderful poem. Well, I kind of changed it, let's call it that, and I made a High Fright poem that is a little more appropriate to Air Force pilot training, and it goes as follow, and I will read it in my best literary voice. Oh, I have slipped the surly bonds of earth and danced the skies on overstressed wings. Sunward I've climbed and joined the tumbly mirth while level flight I saw. I've done 100 things the syllabus did not dream of, wheeled and soared and swung in the shaking buffet of my abrupt flare, stalling there. I banged the shiny nose gear and blasted with burners blazing. I've flung my terrified IP through footless halls of paperwork. Up the long, delirious, burning blue, I've topped the wind-swept height with sweaty palms, where never lark nor even tweet flew. And while with confused, tumbling mind I've trod the high, untrespassed sanctity of space, threw up my hands and asked him to fly. All right, so with apologies to the original author. Okay, continuing on. All right, we've got Dear Flyboy, like I said, Flyboy's party jokes. Okay, now here are the wives. Okay, and we had a big group, the wives and girlfriends. The last name, if it's in parentheses, that means it's a girlfriend. And there were, like I said, 7 girlfriends. But these are a number of them here, and they're all pictured. And you notice there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 ladies with the cats here now. Sue Nappick right there in the center with kids. Sue Nappick has a cat. They were friends of ours. You'll see my wife on the next page with our youngin, but they were friends of ours, and I think she was rather jealous that I had a child instead of their cat. But anyway, yeah, we had an interesting time. We had at least one divorce I know afterwards. I'm not sure how long afterwards, but we also had a situation where one of the single male students had an affair with one of the married wives. Yeah, and that did not go well at all. I'm not sure how that was finally resolved, but you can imagine that that was not a good thing. Okay, so here is the girls of section 2, and I was in section 2. And then we have the girls of section 1. Okay. No, I was in, our section 2 is continued there, and then it starts section 1 on the next page. And in the very far lower left-hand corner, that's my wife there, and my oldest son, only son at the time, Mark. And there we go on with the rest of the wives. And as we continued with the genre of the the Playboy magazine, little comments there. Angus finally soloed. Angus took a long time to solo the tweet, and we were finally out there, of course. And then we end with what sort of a man reads Flyboy. All right. Well, that's the situation about wives in our class. And, looking back on it, I'm actually surprised at the very high percentage of wives we had there now. With the things the way they are much later, Playboy's gone. The internet, if nothing else, killed it, and standards. And, back in '68, that was the beginning of the sexual revolution, and everything changed. So now, of course, people wait a lot longer to get married. And in fact, when I was an instructor, a lot of the students were single. I think even back then, the number of marriages was less. And I would hear my students in the bar talking about D1s and D2s. Okay. We're in the middle of the Bible Belt, which, take it any way you want to, but Enid, Oklahoma was kind of slim picking for girlfriends at the time, I would say. And the students would talk about going to the bar, and they would talk about D1s and D2s. And I go, well, what's a D1? What's a D2? And they said, oh, we don't even ask them anymore if they're divorced. It's, are you divorced with 1 kid or divorced with 2? So that's a D1 and a D2. Okay. Felt kind of bad for the students. Anyway, that's the story of what it was like back in the day. Pilot training and the wives, as per a viewer request. Thanks for watching. I hope you found it interesting and informative. Thank you very much.